Since the existence of life insurance, there have been many people who have faked their own death and attempted to collect on a life insurance claim by splitting the claim proceeds with a beneficiary, such as a spouse or relative. How many people have actually gotten away with this? It's impossible to say. What we do know is that people are not always smart about filing a bogus claim, and some have been downright stupid about it. So let's get going with our top 6 list of life insurance scams that went completely wrong. Worst scam number 6. Cabbage trucks and fingerprints. In 2005, Anthony McCurlian faked his own death by impersonating his wife and then claiming that he had been killed after being struck by a cabbage truck while traveling in Honduras. The life insurance he stood to collect was about 500,000 British pounds. The insurance company was suspicious of the circumstances. What tipped them off, we don't know, and had the police check out the story. The police dusted the submitted life insurance documentation for prints and found Anthony's fingerprints on the death certificate. Since the chances of coming back from the dead to submit a death certificate to authorities is rather remote, Anthony was subsequently charged with life insurance fraud along with his wife, who was found to be complicit. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison as there were previous fraud convictions that were taken into account. It was just one more case of cabbage truck-related insurance fraud. Worst scam number 5. Wrong gender. In 2005, a Texas couple by the names of Molly and Clayton Daniels dug up a corpse from a nearby cemetery, dressed it in some of Clayton's clothes, and put the corpse in Clayton's car. Then, they pushed the vehicle over a cliff, expecting to see a fiery inferno like we always see in the movies. Unfortunately for them, the car did not burst into flames. So they climbed down the cliff and tried setting the corpse on fire using some lighter fluid. Of course, before this all happened, the Daniels took out a $110,000 life insurance policy on Clayton. They then faked Clayton's death in order to collect on the life insurance policy and also keep Clayton out of prison as he was facing jail time for failing to report to his probation officer for previous charges. Police immediately suspected that there was something fishy going on, however. First, there were no skid marks on the road where the car went off the cliff. Second, investigators quickly found out that the vehicle fire actually started in the driver's seat and was fueled by barbecue lighter fluid. The final nail in the coffin came when DNA testing confirmed that the burned crash victim was not Clayton, but was in fact a woman by the name of Charlotte Davis, who had died over a year before. Oops, wrong gender, busted. Worst scam number 4. DWD, driving while dead. In 2012, a man by the name of Raymond Roth was pulled over and ticketed for a speeding infraction. No big deal, right? Many of us have been given a ticket for speeding at some time in our driving career. This was a surprise for the police officer, though. A DWD surprise. To be more precise, a driving while dead issue. As it turns out, Raymond Roth was thought to have drowned and had been the focus of a massive police search a short while beforehand. His son, Jonathan Roth, reported his father missing to the authorities, and then contacted the life insurance company 3 days later to submit a life insurance claim. To be fair, there is still some confusion as to the culpability of the son and father, like who knew what. However, there was an email sent by Raymond to his son where Raymond instructs his son to contact him at a hotel after the staged death to let him know how things were progressing. The result? His son Jonathan received 1 year in jail for his part in the fraud attempt. Raymond was due to face 90 days in jail for his part in the fraud, but the deal struck with prosecutors was dropped after new charges were brought against him. He had a history of mental illness and was charged with the attempted kidnapping of a woman during the same time. Worst scam number 3. Chance meeting on a mountaintop. Harry Gordon was a prominent Australian businessman and one-time millionaire who decided to fake his own death due to surmounting financial and personal pressures, including alleged extortion by criminal elements. In June of 2000, he faked his own death in a boating accident along with the help of his wife, Sheila, who eventually submitted a claim on a £1.75 million life insurance policy. Supposedly, their daughter also knew about this scheme. Interestingly, though, the life insurance company didn't pay out, and Sheila did not pursue the claim any further. After his death, Harry met and fell in love with an Auckland woman named Christine Newsom. In 2005, Harry and his newfound love were hiking atop Mount Maunganui in Taronga, New Zealand, when they ran straight into Harry's brother Michael. Apparently, Michael said, "Hello, is that really you?" To which Harry replied, "Of course, but look, it's not convenient to talk now. I'll call you in a few days." Quite a shock for Michael, since he really believed his brother had perished in a boating accident 5 years earlier. But the jig was up. Michael went to Sheila, Harry's first wife, and managed to persuade her to go to the police and spill the beans. The end result? Harry was sentenced to 18 months in jail for false representation and conspiracy to defraud an insurance company. His first wife, Sheila, was given 5 months of house arrest. It really is a small world. Worst scam number 2. A hard man to kill. Iron Mike Malloy was a homeless, alcoholic person from New York City who had the extreme misfortune of frequenting a bar with some seriously greedy and immoral characters. Eventually known as the Murder Trust, these 4 people, the bar owner and 3 other patrons, convinced Mike to sign 3 life insurance policies, all of which had the Murder Trust individuals as the beneficiaries. After all, Mike Malloy was known for his alcoholic successes and was a middle-aged man. How long could he continue the way he was and live, especially if he had an open bar tab that he didn't have to pay back? Well, it turns out that Mike was made of much more durable stuff than the conspirators realized. In spite of consuming vast amounts of free alcohol, Mike was still in relatively decent health. The conspirators decided action was called for, so they started adding antifreeze to Mike's drinks. This didn't faze Iron Mike in the least. So next, they added turpentine to his drinks. The end result? Mike's health seemed to be improving. To make a long story shorter, the Murder Trust friends fed him horse liniment and eventually rat poison, dragged Mike outside when he was passed out, poured water on him to help him freeze, and left him there. Fed him at least 1 sandwich that contained carpenter's tacks and metal shavings, hired a cab to run Mike over. This didn't work, so they hired another cabbie to run over another homeless drunk that had some of Mike's ID in his pockets. After all these attempts, a few days later, Iron Mike rolled back into the bar, complaining about a sore shoulder and probably looking for some more free booze. Sadly to say, there isn't a happy ending to this tale. The Murder Trust eventually ended up earning their nickname and murdering Iron Mike by force-feeding him gasoline. In return, the authorities found all 4 of them guilty of first-degree murder, and they were executed for their crimes. R.I.P. Iron Mike. Worst scam number 1. Darwin's death. Don't leave behind your wife with a broken heart and all the bills. That's what John Darwin discovered after he faked drowning to collect insurance money. In 2002, John Darwin, a seemingly respectable British teacher and former prison warden, faked his own death by paddling out to sea in a canoe and promptly disappearing. The collaborative plan, which was hatched by Darwin and his wife Anne, resulted in a large-scale search for Darwin's body, of which no trace was found. But 4 years later, all was revealed when the couple reappeared together in a real estate social media post in Panama, where they had both moved to start a new life, and the fraud was rumbled. Darwin had planned his own disappearance to claim about 700,000 British pounds, which allowed the couple to pay off their 130,000 pounds mortgage and reinvent their lives abroad. But their deceit cost the couple dearly, because on July 23, 2008, John and Anne Darwin were each sentenced to more than 6 years in prison. Darwin split with his wife after their prison sentences and now lives in the Philippines and runs a business with his new wife. While these frauds may seem crazy, they do happen. And these scams are worth keeping in mind so you don't find yourself in the middle of the next big news story. But did you know there are actually a lot of known insurance scams? Check out our videos on them.